Standing by is somebody that has a keen eye on this. She's a pastor. She's a Christian counselor. She is Teresa Lusk. She's been on my show many times before. She's got a master's degree in counseling, and she hosts the Teresa Lusk Show. Focuses on business, faith, family, politics, things like that. She's kind enough to give us some of her time here to talk about this and this story that just popped up in the last day or two. Teresa, how are you on this glorious Wednesday?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm well, but when I saw this, I again began to be concerned. And again, it doesn't seem like it's every day, but every so often I see things like this and I say, wait a minute, where's the Justice Department on this? And why does it seem like there is a decided bent against Christianity and Roman Catholicism in this country? I don't get it. What's going on here?
I think that it's definitely something that is real. I don't think it's imagined for anybody. I think that if you're a person of faith and you're keeping up with what's going on politically, what's going on in our country, and even what's going on with this current administration, it is very obvious that people of faith are being targeted, especially in the area of being vocal about your faith. I believe a lot of it is due to the fact that faith has different principles and foundations, which goes against what this current administration and the culture is leaning towards.
I look at this again at this report that just popped up, and they're trying to pass it off on something that the previous administration did. But look, January 2021, you own it, right? I mean, it's their baby, no pun intended, but they've got, this is what was dumped in their lap. If indeed that was the case, you own it going forward on January 2021. I'm just wondering why there seems to be this point, hey, not my fault, that guy's fault going on here. Any idea as to why that's going on?
Well, I don't know exactly. What we have to pay attention to here, though, is that even if it was something that, was left from the previous administration, which I'm not sure if I believe that, because President Trump was very pro-faith. And so I don't believe that he would have done that. He has a history of being pro-faith. But I do know this. I was watching a video of President Biden this morning, and he was speaking against what he would call right-wing radicals, et cetera, et cetera. And so it ties in very well with their own rhetoric, with their very own ideology. So it doesn't surprise me not one bit. And I think that people of faith do need to start standing up and let their voices be heard. It doesn't mean you have to be rude or volatile, but you definitely have to be aware that faith is under attack, whether it's Catholicism, or other denominations. Faith is faith, and we need to stand up for what we believe in, because that is our right as Americans.
It's frightening. The Center for Religious Liberty and the Family Research Council, an organization I am not familiar with, but apparently they've released a report that said that so far here in 2023, which again is only several months old, 69 acts of hostility against churches in 29 states, including 53 acts of vandalism, 10 arson attacks or attempts, 3 gun-related incidents, 3 bomb threats, 2 other incidents such as assault. So it almost just gets brushed aside. I understand why the media won't do it, because it doesn't really play into their narrative. But I don't understand why somebody, I mean, Joe Biden passes himself off as a Catholic. You would think that maybe he would say something. I'm looking at another story here. His Justice Department offered a kind of a sweetheart plea deal to somebody who vandalized a Catholic church with profane graffiti. And this dude also smashed a couple of glass doors with rocks, spray painted the church outside the wall with message that read, F Catholics, rot in your fake hell, this and that. And like, you hear nothing. You hear nothing from the Justice Department. I really, it just seems like if it were another religious group, I think you would hear a lot of screaming. I think you'd see a lot of television coverage, but it involves Christianity. And so I think by and large, and I don't mean to paint every Christian this way, Teresa, so please don't think I am. I don't think they're a vocal group. I just don't think I'll put myself, I just don't think we're a vocal group. It's just like, oh, geez, that's terrible, let's move on. Other groups, they'd be outside with signs, protests, marching, and whatnot. I really don't understand, because I don't think it's indigenous just to Catholicism or to Christianity that people cower and don't say anything. But it seems to me that way, that we're not sticking up for ourselves.
It's true, because Christianity has been, as Christians, you're encouraged to turn the other cheek. But what they don't understand is that turning the other cheek sometimes means to look a different way, look at things a different way, find another strategy. And Jesus came against the Pharisees, those religious people that were determined to ruin people's lives and do things a certain way. I believe that it is important to be vocal, to stand up, and I call out the faith people to rise up and begin to say, you know what, this is my faith and it's important. I don't think you're going to find the support in the Biden administration, because he has made himself very clear that he's going to be the president of only a certain group of people, not all Americans. Yeah. And so that's a problem. Yeah. So we'll just have to do our part.
Yeah, I mean, I again, correct me if I'm wrong. I have not seen anything, but when those 6 people were gunned down, 3 students at that Christian school in Nashville, I don't think there's been any kind of visit with the families from anybody in the administration. There's been nothing that I've seen where he's gone to the school or his vice president have gone to the school. But yet 2 lawmakers that decided they were going to disrupt business in that same city in a state legislature, they get brought to the White House and treated like absolute heroes. I mean, to me, that's, at least in recent history, the last 90 days, that seems the most glaring omission, does it not?
Oh, absolutely. I was just devastated that President Biden would not rise up and speak for the faith community. Instead, he sided with the transgender community and made it a celebration for them instead of an acknowledgement of what happened. And that is heartbreaking. It does shift, though. One of the things we have to pay attention to is that it does shift the foundation, the who we are as Americans, and that's the goal. That is exactly why he is not vocalizing his heartfelt condolences to the loss of the people in this Christian school. He has to make sure he's moving the country in that direction where we are more of a faithless. Even if he says he is a man of faith himself, the Bible's clear. We know you by your fruit, and we have seen the fruit that comes out of that administration. Yeah,
I mean, for a man that purports to be someone who is very much loves family, this and that, I mean, to not even acknowledge anything with regards to the people and the lives that were lost is absolutely stunning to me. Teresa Lusk, our guest, she has a master's degree in counseling and hosts her own show focusing on business, faith, family, and politics. Well, politics is going to play into all of this. I mean, we've got an election a year and a half from now, and my guess is family and faith is going to play into that largely. And you're right, I don't know what he's doing other than he's not uniting as what he said he was going to do when he campaigned for president in 2019 and 2020. He's not uniting the country. He's dividing the country with his rhetoric. And I'm sure that someone is telling him to do that because that's an easy avenue to get reelected. But I do think come 2024, a lot of this will come to the forefront. And then it's a matter of whether or not it becomes as important as things like the economy, as the southern border, as funding a proxy war halfway around the world. I think a lot of it will come to light. But Teresa, do you really think it will be faith, family, and things that obviously are under siege here? Do you really think they're going to be as important as those other things I mentioned?
I think they will take, unfortunately, the back seat, but I don't think that they'll be too far because people are starting to feel it. Even Democrats, liberals, they're starting to feel it. I've been watching the media release. A lot of people, present their sentiments against what this administration's doing. So now that these people who voted for this president are feeling the pinch, they will then begin to look into the other areas that are important to them. So unfortunately, that's how sometimes things have to happen. You have to be pinched where it really hurts, and then you begin to look at the whole picture.
I mean, it's outrageous. This document that apparently surfaced, they quote I guess it's someone who is a made-up character in a made-up scenario, but who knows? I mean, he said, "This is Ann, a resident of Elkville in rural America, and has always been religious, but since the death of her mother, she's become increasingly devout. She's a regular in the small-town community, active in several church groups, and while she's always been protective of her 4 kids, she has become increasingly more concerned about the welfare of other children, including the unborn. And they use that as an example of somebody, I guess, that you should turn into the DHS's Office of Terrorism and Violence. I mean, it's outrageous. Just because you have those beliefs doesn't mean you're going to go out there and commit some crime or some act of violence. It's outrageous.
It is, and this is where we have to pay attention, that our vocabulary and our words for standing up for what's been given to us by those brave men and women who have fought for us. We get to have some freedoms, of so many different types, and slowly it begins to be taken away. And if I can label your speech and what you stand for as extremists and extremism, then you become a criminal. And that is very concerning. But again, the more we resist, I have seen, and I'm sure you have too, the more you stand up consistently as a whole, we can begin to push back on some of these things. All I can say is this: it's time for a new leader. And I pray that those people who voted this president in will pay attention to how bad their life really is. I mean, it's not, I don't believe anybody can say, you know what, after this president and everything that he stands for and his policies, that this is a good thing for America. I think that they will wake up and go, I need to rethink this. And that happened with Obama.
Well, only 36,
I met people who actually had second thoughts.
Yeah, well, only 36% of the people in this country right now think he's doing a good job. And that's from a very liberal poll conducted by ABC News. But whatever. Teresa, how do we find your show, the Teresa Lusk Show? And when we find it, what do we get?
Different social media platforms at Teresa Lusk Show, and you get to see some of my interviews that I'm doing and I'm holding there, and just having fun. We're just having fun with faith, family, business, and politics. Good for you. Keep up the good work. And Teresa, thank you so much for your time here. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Teresa Lusk.